For today, we are going to introduce the 13th athletic director in the 116-year history of Clemson athletics, just the 5th since 1940. I will turn the proceedings over to President Barker, who will make some opening comments. We'll have our press conference, and then we'll have a breakout session afterwards. President Barker.
Tim, thank you very much. Let me welcome members of the press, our athletic staff, university administrators, our volunteer leaders to today's announcement. As you know, this past summer, Dr. Terry Don Phillips announced his plans that after 10 successful years at Clemson that he would retire. We launched a national search that drew an exceptional field of candidates, and that was not surprising to us because of the reputation of Clemson University and the strong athletic foundation that's been built here under Terry Don's leadership and with a remarkable athletic staff. Let me ask you to consider this national field from which we drew candidates. We had candidates from every BCS conference. We had candidates from 2 mid-major conferences, 2 conference offices, and professional sports executives, as well as the private sector. I told each of these candidates that we interviewed that this is one of the best jobs in America. We have a strong athletic department that's financially healthy, committed to winning with integrity. We have outstanding facilities, coaches, staff, and one of the best booster organizations in America. And I'd like to thank the search committee for the time and energy that they placed on the weekends and evenings to bring this search to its successful conclusion. Let me introduce Ambassador David Wilkins, who chairs our Board of Trustees. David, thank you. Professor Janie Hodge, our faculty athletic representative, and Neil Cameron, who's our Vice President for Advancement. We set this bar very high. We wanted an individual who knew how to lead, who knew how to win, how to generate revenue, how to communicate a vision for Clemson's future that would rally our students and faculty and coaches and staff and our fans. And we believe that we have found just that individual. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Clemson's next athletic director, Dan Radakovich. And let me tell you a little bit about our new AD. Dan has served as Georgia Tech's Director of Athletics since 2006. He followed that was following a 5-year tenure as a Senior Associate Athletics Director at LSU, a period of time in which LSU won the national championship in football. He previously served as Athletics Director at American University and as Associate Athletics Director at the University of South Carolina. At Georgia Tech, in his 6 years, this is what they have accomplished. 23 ACC championships and regular season championships. 1 national championship. 13 ACC Coaches of the Year and 13 ACC Players of the Year. All of that in that 6-year span. Dan understands the academic side of his job, the business and competitive aspects of college athletics. He knows what it takes to win championships. He has a proven track record in fundraising and revenue growth, and he's committed to compliance and the student athletes and their welfare. He's been successful in both the ACC and the SEC, and he's known and respected among coaches and athletics directors nationwide. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Dan Radakovich. Dan?
Thank you, President Barker. I want to thank you for this incredible opportunity at Clemson University. I must also thank the members of the search committee who have been fantastic throughout this process and clearly have a deep passion and love for the Tigers. I always said it would take a very special opportunity for me to leave Georgia Tech, and my appreciation goes out to President Bud Peterson and the outstanding staff and coaches and student athletes with whom I've had the privilege of working the last 6.5 years. I will always cherish the time that I had at Georgia Tech. My biggest thank you goes to my wife of 26 years, Marcy, who I would like to stand. Please, Marcy. It would not surprise me in a very short time after you get to know her that you will have realized you may have hired the wrong Radakovich. My son Christian is also here. He will be a December graduate of Georgia Tech, and my other son Grant is a freshman student athlete at Mercer University, doing what all good student athletes do, go to class and practice today. But make no mistake that they are all Clemson Tigers right now. It is an honor to follow a great friend and leader in Terry Don Phillips, and I've admired him for many years. Clemson cannot ever replace Terry Don on the tradition and excellence that he has established here at Clemson. I've watched from down I-85 as Clemson has assembled an amazing group of coaches, administrators, and I look forward to working with this strong collection of athletics professionals. 45 years ago, I was a 9-year-old sports fanatic in Laurel, Pennsylvania, when Clemson first came into my consciousness. A young man and a friend of my family's from my hometown of Aliquippa, Pennsylvania, the late Butch Zataslo, left to play college basketball at Clemson University. And suddenly, a team from the South had a patch of fans in the North. Clemson stayed with me. 15 years later, I was a graduate student at the University of Miami, obtaining my MBA. And I was one of the 72,000 people in the Orange Bowl the night Coach Danny Ford and the Clemson Tigers beat Nebraska for the national championship. But it wasn't until my athletic administration career began at Long Beach State in California, working with the legendary Coach George Allen, that I first stepped foot in Death Valley. It was 1990, and Coach Allen brought the team across country to suffer what turned out to be a 59-0 loss to the Tigers in Coach Ken Hatfield's debut. I don't remember much about that game, but I distinctly remember the feeling, the atmosphere, the hospitality, and the passion, and yes, the rock. And I remember thinking, this is a place that I want to be. Over the course of years, my admiration for Clemson grew, quietly of course, working in Columbia, Baton Rouge, and Atlanta. But here I am. I couldn't be more honored or proud to serve Clemson. As stated in the mission statement of Clemson Athletics, and as regularly articulated by President Barker, we seek to be a source of pride for the citizens of the state of South Carolina and to be recognized as a nationally prominent program. You have my promise here today that I will work hard to ensure our student athletes, coaches, and staff earn the pride of the state each and every day, and that we pursue success and excellence in everything that we do. Not only to be recognized as a nationally prominent program, but to be envied by programs across the country. We have access to over 7 million people within a 2-hour drive of where we're sitting, and very much in a part of the country where people take college sports seriously. We've created a tremendous infrastructure of financial support, academic support, rules compliance, and facilities. We have great coaches and staff, people who care deeply about the young people that they mentor, and the fan base who provides them resources to apply their craft. Clemson also has a tradition of winning. But most of all, there's Tiger pride, the great passion of the fan base unlike any other, and I look forward to meeting Tiger supporters and providing them a window into our inner workings and thinkings. In today's intercollegiate world, I believe strongly that it's necessary for a department to allow its alumni, fans, and friends of the athletic program to understand how we do things. We need to be transparent. We need to be communicative, as that forms the backbone of the support that those fans give to our program. I look forward to getting out and engaging all of the Tiger faithful. People that know me, I believe, would tell you that I'm passionate about my work. I enjoy the competition and the pursuit of excellence. I'm accountable. And most of all, I take enormous pride in making sure the student athletes not only have a great experience, but also grow into great leaders. We're in the business of creating memories for our student athletes, like that Orange Bowl in 1981, the many trips to Omaha for the College World Series, the national championships in soccer and rowing. We create memories as an athletics program. And And these memories last a lifetime. And our job as administrators is to provide the foundation for the creation of those dreams, whether it's a touchdown, a basket, a stroke, or a ball. Also, athletics is an important, but not the only piece of a university's landscape. Our student athletes and coaches will represent Clemson University with class and sportsmanship, with integrity and ethics, and they will obtain degrees in work and community service. But make no mistake, we will compete with a ferociousness and a determination in championships for every sport. We are a proud and long-standing member of the Atlantic Coast Conference, and with the additions of Syracuse and Pittsburgh, as well as the new partnership with Notre Dame, we are only getting stronger. When our football players touch Howard's Rock, we are 80,000 strong in Memorial Stadium, but those young men are just the lucky ones. Our athletics department, our university, is more about one team, one game, or one moment in time. Clemson is about people and passion. It's an honor to serve the Clemson faithful, and I can't wait to get started. Go Tigers!
Dan, you are bringing a lot to us at Clemson, but there's one thing you don't have, and I'm going to correct that right now, and that's the white collar blazer.
At what point, when you heard the job was open, did you think this would be a position you would be interested in?
Terry, Don, and I, obviously being in the Atlantic Coast Conference, I've known about the great work that he and the entire staff had done here. And when I heard that Terry, Don was retiring, I remember going home and telling Marcy, I said there could be an incredible opportunity just a couple hours up the road. And that's when I first started to think about it, right after I heard that he was retiring.
How did you come together, President Barker, and the search committee with you? Was it your initiative
I think it was certainly my initiative to make the first call, because I told Terry, I said, Terry, I would really like an opportunity to sit and talk with the decision makers for this job. And Terry Don was very helpful and instrumental in making that happen.
I think that's an accurate description. We're just beginning the process and learned of Dan's interest.
At what point did you feel that this might be a person that you were willing to offer the job to? Was it in the last 24, 48 hours, or did early on he emerge as a viable option for you?
I think that after our first round of interviews, it was clear that we had several very strong candidates, and this candidate might be the strongest of all. We did an awful lot of additional checking about things, visiting about things, and then our second round of interviews, it was very clear to all of us on the search committee that was the right choice. Especially when we met Marcy, that's, as Dan said. We wanted her, we had to take him.
And you talked about the infrastructure here, the footprint, the traffic. What do you think you can build out here? What areas do you see that can be improved?
Well, I think that's going to take the first 90 to 120 days to really go through and survey the departments to find out exactly what shape everything is in. It looks great, and you can see the results of great hard work by the staff. But I've been in a number of different places, and one of the great things that I tell people who ask me about getting into collegiate athletics is that you should take the opportunity to be at a number of places, because each one of those places allows you to grow a little and take a little piece of that with you. And I hope that the culmination of all the places that I've been and the experiences that I've had, once I get to know and understand the Clemson culture intimately, I'll be able to make it better.
What would you take from LSU? What would you take from
Well, you know, it's interesting. There is a lot more in common with my 5 years of experience at LSU because of the great passion for particularly the football program, but all the athletic programs in general. The large gatherings of thousands and thousands of people, both in and outside the stadium, which, you know, that creates logistical issues that Clemson has been able to navigate just tremendously over the year. But understanding the passion that people have, and that it is important. It is important to them that the athletic program be successful on the field, be successful in the classroom. Those are some things that I would take from that experience.
Dan, you talked about how your admiration for Clemson grew through all those experiences you had, you know, coming up with it. What was it that stood out to you about Clemson?
I will tell you that outside of what's happened on the field, I've never had a bad experience coming to Clemson for a football game. It's just one of the most welcoming atmospheres in the United States. And I think the Solid Orange campaign, the sportsmanship that the department has pulled together, and the fans really understand. I will tell you that there are venues throughout the United States that aren't as welcoming as it is here at Clemson University. And I think that's a point of pride, because as time goes on, the most valuable people that we have in our covey right now are the people who buy tickets and come to our events. They are our investors, and we need to treat them with great respect and give them a great entertainment value for coming to our athletic events. And that's something that we're going to strive to do.
What is your timeline in terms of transition to this job, and what are some of the big hurdles you've overcome going into these jobs?
From the standpoint, it was very important to President Barker and to myself that Georgia Tech, that I have the right type of transition. And I believe that, you know, over the next 2 weeks, I will be moving forward with that transition. There are a couple of events at Georgia Tech that are quite honestly pretty important. We just finished at Georgia Tech. I told you I'm going to stop doing that. At Georgia Tech, just finished a $50 million renovation of the basketball facility on their campus. That was a pet project that I helped shepherd through the great gifts that we were able to receive. And that's going to be dedicated on Thursday and opened on November 9th. So it'd be kind of nice to see that thing come to fruition. After that, it's really going to be just a few loose ends, and I hope to be here certainly for all the football Saturdays this month. There's 3 of them, and on board full-time by the end of November.
You mentioned the basketball updates. Obviously, that's a big campaign now going here. What are your thoughts on that, and maybe, you know, what input would you give to it?
Well, I'm really excited to see the plans that have been done to date for the practice facilities. I think it's important to have the practice facilities. At Georgia Tech, it was important to build the practice facility before you did the major renovation of the building. And I think here, the building is in great shape. Now we just have to give our basketball staffs the opportunity to have a great practice facility. Because as you deal in recruiting, people talk a lot about the arms race in recruiting. And sometimes it's not what you have, it's what you don't have. And we want to make sure that we can have each one of those prospective student athletes check the box and say, Clemson not only has a great education, it's in a great part of the world. They have all the things that will allow me to be the best student athlete that I can be.
President Barker, upon Terry Don's announcement, you addressed this somewhat, but would you kind of compare and contrast where the athletic department is now compared to when Terry Don came in and his stewardship?
Well, I think if you look back at Clemson Athletics and at Clemson University overall, what you find is a trajectory that's clearly upward. There have been some bumps along the way on both sides of that, but I think what we have now is a healthy financial picture. We have a great success in graduating student athletes. Our ABR scores are very strong. We have a continuing and growing fan base. I think it's been a steady sort of step by step through the leadership of Terry Don Phillips, and in many ways paralleling the steps that the university has made. I think again demonstrating that we can be great at athletics and academics together. There's more there that we can do, and I think that would be Dan's challenge. But I think he begins from a much higher base, a much better base, and I think that's something that we've all worked hard to make sure that that next person that came along would have an opportunity to be even more successful, and I think that's what we've accomplished. And then we just had to find the right leader that knew what that new territory looked like.
President Barker, at what point did you and the committee decide that this was going to be an external hire?
Not until we decided that we settled on Dan. We did not approach this as an internal hire or an external hire. We approached it to find the best AD in the country. And if that was inside, so be it. If it's outside, so be it. So we did not, anywhere along the way, say that we were having an external or an internal selection.
You touched on that you believe strongly in transparency to the fan base as far as the working. Can you just elaborate on why that's important? Because it strikes me as maybe not the common way things are.
Well, I think that when people are going to give of their resources, they need to understand where's the money going? How is it going to be used? And I think it's also important for people to say, I'm helping make a strong athletic program stronger by giving these gifts or buying these tickets. We need to show that we're good stewards of the resources that we have. So by making sure that whether it's in an annual report or quarterly statement through some type of newsletter or internet communication that goes out, we let folks know how we're doing. Did we hit some of our marks? Are we ahead in some areas, not ahead in others? President Barker has an awesome tool that he uses with the Board of Trustees, and it's a report card. And I think in today's society, and especially with sports, people want information and they want it now. And it's about today's information. So that type of transparency, financial information about the athletic program, I think those are things that are truly important to keep your fan base engaged in what you're trying to do as an athletic program.
President Barker and Dan, also, the elephant in the room is the issue last year with the NCAA. And obviously you satisfied the president and the search committee about your situation there. How were the conversations in that area, Jim and Dan? Can you further address how that may have affected?
I'll start. I think that's a very important question. It's one that we did a great deal of due diligence on. We had a lot of conversations in our interviews with Dan about that matter because compliance is of great interest to Clemson. If I had not been satisfied and the committee not been satisfied with those answers, we wouldn't be here today.
And just to take the next step there, it was a life-altering experience for me as it relates to going through that process. There were some great lessons learned, and while you can sometimes teach people things through books and through other materials, until you go through something like that, that is life's best teacher. There were mistakes that were made that I can guarantee will not be made again. There are steps that weren't taken that will be taken in the future if something like that occurs. So it's a life lesson that I have, and I bring to the table having been in the trenches there and never wanting to return. I think that there are opportunities here at Clemson through the great compliance staff that we have and the culture of ethics that are here, never to revisit that.
Dan, what's your opinion on where you think Clemson could improve upon, I guess, the outside looking in the last 5 or 6 years?
I think that, again, not being totally into the weeds yet with everything within the program, there are so many positives, as it relates to the passion of the fan base and making sure that people are engaged in the program. I think when you're in this seat, you want to make sure that your your student athletes have the best opportunity to be successful. And I want to go through with each one of our coaches and find out not where they are today, but where do they want to be, and how can myself and our staff get them there, because we want to achieve as many victories as possible. That's really what it's about on the athletic side, while simultaneously making sure that the student athletes are having a great experience.
Any other questions? I want to thank everybody for attending. Thank you, gentlemen, and we'll both be available for breakout questions. We'll set up